My name is Catherine Bennett, and I'm 31 years old. 6 months ago, at my twin sister's $400,000 wedding, I was seated at table 28, the table reserved for the catering staff. My mother told the photographer to crop me out of family photos because, and I quote, "We don't need the help in the pictures." The help. I'm not the help. I'm a chef. I own my restaurant. But to her, working with my hands made me invisible, made me less than, made me the embarrassment she had to hide while my twin sister, 10 minutes younger than me, same DNA, same face, stood in a Vera Wang gown accepting congratulations for making something of herself. Then a man in a Tom Ford suit sat down next to me at table 28 and said, "You're Catherine Bennett. I know exactly who you are. And I think it's time everyone else did too." When he stood to give a toast, my sister's smile froze. My mother went pale. Because some secrets can't stay buried, and some people can't stay invisible forever. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the moment everything fell apart, 6 months before the wedding. Before I continue, if you're genuinely drawn into this story, take a moment to like and subscribe. And if you've ever felt overlooked despite doing everything right, stay. Because the moment everything truly began for me happened very late at night. It was 11:23 p.m. on a Tuesday in December when my mother called. I was in the kitchen of Bella Notte, my restaurant in Brooklyn, elbow deep in fresh pasta dough. 26 seats, exposed brick, the kind of place where regulars know your name and strangers become friends over handmade ravioli. I'd been there since 4 a.m., prepping for the next day's service, making stock, rolling out sheets of tagliatelle, testing a new sage butter sauce that needed just a touch more lemon. The restaurant was silent except for the hum of the walk-in refrigerator and the occasional drip from the faucet I kept meaning to fix. My hands were dusted with semolina flour when my phone lit up on the stainless steel counter. Mom. I stared at the name for 3 rings. My mother didn't call. Not for birthdays. Not for holidays. The last time we'd spoken was 8 months ago. Thanksgiving, when she'd somehow managed to host dinner without mentioning I existed to half the guests. I wiped my hands on my apron and answered. "Catherine." Her voice was clipped, businesslike. No hello, no how are you. Just my name, like she was checking off a list. "Caroline is engaged. The wedding is in June at the plaza. You'll be there, of course?" Of course. As if my attendance was a given, as if we were a normal family. "Congratulations to Caroline," I said carefully. "Who's the lucky guy?" "Timothy Ashford III, corporate attorney at Morrison and Fitch, very established family. The Ashfords, Catherine, old money, very respected." She paused, and I could hear the calculation in her silence. "The wedding will be quite large, 350 guests. We're finalizing vendors now, and I was thinking, your restaurant, could you possibly help with anything?" There it was. The real reason for the call. Help. She didn't want me there as her daughter. She wanted me there as free labor. Caroline and I are twins. I came first, 10 minutes ahead, which my mother always said made me technically the oldest, but never meant I was treated that way. For the first 18 years, we were inseparable. Same classes, same friends, same college applications. We both got into Columbia. We both had pre-law advisors. We were supposed to follow the same path. Law school, corporate jobs, the kind of careers our mother could brag about at country club luncheons. Then I spent a summer in Italy. Bologna, then Florence. I worked in restaurant kitchens for room and board, learning to make pasta from nonnas who'd been doing it for 60 years. I came back different. I came back knowing I didn't want to spend my life in a courtroom. I wanted to spend it in a kitchen. My mother cried when I told her I was dropping out of pre-law to attend Le Cordon Bleu. Not because she'd miss me, because I was embarrassing her. "Do you know what people will think?" she'd said. "That I raised a daughter who cooks for a living?" Caroline stayed the course. Columbia Law, Morrison and Fitch, partner track at 31, everything our mother had ever wanted. I became the daughter she told people about in past tense. I have a daughter who's an attorney, she'd say at parties. When someone asked, just one? She'd smile tightly. Well, there's another one. She works with food. Not she's a chef, not she owns a restaurant, just works with food. Like I was flipping burgers at McDonald's. I'd stopped expecting to be acknowledged, but I hadn't expected my mother to want me to cater my own sister's wedding for free. I appreciate the thought, Mom, I said, measuring my words. But catering for 350 people is a full production. That's not something I can just help with casually. And June is our busiest season. Catherine. Her voice went cold. The temperature drop was instant, familiar. This is your sister's wedding, her most important day. Surely you can make an exception for family? Family. The word she only used when she needed something. Professional catering for that size runs between $45,000 and $60,000, I said quietly. I can't afford to do that for free, Mom. I have a business to run. I have employees who depend on me. You're refusing to help your own sister? I'm saying I can't provide $50,000 of free labor. That's not the same thing. Silence. 5 seconds that felt like 5 minutes. Then, I see. Well, if that's how you feel, perhaps it's best you don't come at all. The line went dead. I stood there in my empty kitchen, flour on my hands, and the familiar ache of being unwanted settled in my chest like a stone. The text started 15 minutes later. Caroline. Hey, sis. Mom said you're having trouble with the wedding? I know we haven't been super close lately, but you're my sister. I really want you there. Please? Caroline. I heard about the catering thing. I totally get it if you can't help with that. No pressure. But you'll still come, right? It wouldn't be the same without you. Caroline. Mom says you might not come. Catherine. Please don't let a misunderstanding ruin this. This is the most important day of my life. I need my big sister there. 3 texts in 12 minutes. All of them carefully calibrated to maximum guilt. What struck me wasn't what she said. It was what she didn't say. She didn't call me her twin. We were born 10 minutes apart, shared a womb, shared a face. But she called me sis. Big sister. Creating distance with every word choice. She didn't acknowledge that our mother had just uninvited me for not providing free labor. She didn't ask how I was doing. Didn't ask about my restaurant, my life, anything that mattered to me. The texts were about her, her day, her needs, her wedding. I was just a checkbox on her guest list, and she was making sure I didn't cause problems by not showing up. At 1:15 a.m., I was still in the kitchen, sitting on the floor with my back against the walk-in refrigerator, when Lorenzo found me. Lorenzo Marchetti was my business partner and mentor, 62 years old from Tuscany, with hands that had made pasta for 4 decades. He'd given me a job when I was a culinary student with more ambition than skill. Now we owned Bella Notte together. Caterina, he said softly, using the Italian version of my name he'd adopted years ago. What are you doing on my floor at 1 in the morning? My sister's getting married. Ah. He sat down next to me with a grunt, his knees cracking. And this makes you sit on cold floor because my mother wants me to be there. But she doesn't want me to be there. She wants me to be invisible. She wants me to shut up and serve food and not remind anyone that Perfect Caroline has a sister who disappointed everyone. Lorenzo was quiet for a moment. Then, why do you go back to people who make you feel small? Because she's my sister. No, amore. She is your twin. That is biology. Sister is someone who loves you, who sees you, who celebrates you. He patted my hand. These people, they only see you when they need you. That is not family. That is, how you say, users. I know. Then why you go? I thought about that. Because maybe this time will be different. Maybe if I just show up and be normal and don't cause problems, maybe they'll remember I'm worth loving too. Lorenzo sighed. Caterina, people like that don't change. They only change how they use you. But I knew I'd go anyway, not because I hoped for reconciliation. because I needed to look at this family one last time and give myself permission to walk away. The next morning, I sent my response to caroline.bennett at morrison-fitch.com from Catherine at bellanaughton.ic.com. Subject: Re-Wedding. Dear Caroline, congratulations on your engagement to Timothy. I will attend the wedding. Looking forward to celebrating with you. Catherine, 23 words. Professional, neutral, no emotion, no warmth, just confirmation of attendance. I didn't offer to help with catering, didn't apologize for not offering, didn't explain myself. 3 days later, the formal invitation arrived. Heavy cardstock, cream with gold embossing. Mr. and Mrs. Timothy Ashford III request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their son to Miss Caroline Marie Bennett. At the bottom, handwritten in calligraphy, Catherine Bennett plus guest. Not sister of the bride, not even Miss Catherine Bennett, sister of the bride. Just a name, one of 350, completely interchangeable. I put the invitation on my refrigerator with a magnet. A reminder of exactly what I meant to this family. Nothing special, nothing at all. I bought my dress 3 weeks before the wedding. There was a consignment shop in Park Slope that sold high-end pieces on discount. I found an emerald green silk dress, vintage, probably from the 90s, with a modest neckline and a cut that skimmed rather than clung. It cost $200, which was 3 days of my salary from the restaurant. I tried it on in the small dressing room, staring at myself in the mirror. The dress was beautiful, elegant, appropriate. It looked expensive, even though it wasn't. But what I saw in the mirror was my sister's face. Caroline and I are identical twins. Same dark hair, same brown eyes, same bone structure that people call striking when they're being kind and severe when they're not. We used to joke that we were each other's mirrors. She'd be wearing Vera Wang. $12,000 of custom couture, probably. Fitted by expert hands, every seam perfect. I'd be wearing second-hand silk that cost less than one of her bridesmaid dresses. Same face, same DNA. But we'd never been more different. The 2 weeks before the wedding, I worked like I was preparing for war. 14-hour days in the kitchen, training my sous chef to run service without me. I made 23 quarts of pasta sauce, froze 15 loaves of bread dough, wrote 8 pages of detailed instructions for every station. Lorenzo watched me with concern but didn't try to stop me. Work was the only thing that made sense. In the kitchen, I knew my value, I knew my skill. I knew that every plate that left my pass was excellent because I'd made it that way. Outside the kitchen, I was just Catherine Bennett, the disappointing daughter, the invisible twin. The night before I left for New York, Lorenzo drove me to Penn Station in his beat-up Honda. "Remember, Katerina," he said as I grabbed my suitcase from the trunk, "you are chef, you are artist, you create beauty from nothing. You feed people, you make them happy. That is power, real power, not their fake respect, not their designer dresses. Your hands, your skill, your heart, that is what matters." I hugged him, breathing in the smell of garlic and olive oil that clung to him always. "I'll remember." "Good. And if they make you cry, you call me. I come to New York and I make them cry." I smiled, but as the train pulled out of the station, heading north toward the city, I felt like I was traveling toward my own execution. The Plaza Hotel stands on Fifth Avenue like a monument to wealth. I'd been inside once before for a friend's birthday brunch, and felt out of place then. Now, arriving with my single suitcase at 2:17 p.m. on Friday afternoon, I felt like an imposter. The bellman approached immediately. "Are you at the Bennett Ashford wedding, ma'am?" "Yes, I'm the bride's sister." He glanced at his clipboard, frowning. "Sister, I don't see you on the family list. Are you perhaps vendor staff? They check in through the service entrance on 58th Street. My stomach dropped. "I'm not staff. I'm Catherine Bennett, Caroline's twin sister." He looked uncertain. "One moment, please." He walked over to the concierge desk, conferred with someone, came back looking apologetic but firm. "I apologize for the confusion, ma'am. but you're not listed under family accommodations. If you have a reservation, you can check in at the main desk. I stood there in this plaza lobby. Gold chandeliers, marble floors, the scent of expensive floral arrangements, and felt 14 years old again. The age I was when my mother forgot to pick me up from ballet because she was too busy taking Caroline dress shopping. I found my way to the fourth floor, where my mother had booked a suite for immediate family. 4 bedrooms, living room, private terrace. I'd assumed I'd be staying there. I knocked on the door. Caroline answered, wearing a white bathrobe, her hair in rollers, 3 bridesmaids visible behind her also in robes, champagne glasses in hand. "Oh, Catherine, you made it!" She looked genuinely surprised. Then, "Wait, which room are you in?" "I thought I'd be here. In the family suite?" Caroline's smile became strained. "Oh, um, Mom said you were handling your own accommodation? This suite is just for the wedding party. You know, me, the bridesmaids, Mom. But you can totally check in downstairs. The plaza is gorgeous, you'll love it." One of the bridesmaids, a blonde woman I didn't recognize, looked over. "Who's this?" "My sister," Caroline said quickly. "Catherine. She's joining us for the wedding." Not my twin sister. Not even my older sister, just sister. Like a distant cousin no one remembered inviting. I checked into a single room on the 8th floor. $425 a night for 3 nights. $1,275 that I paid myself, while my mother's family suite cost $10,500 for the same period. I wasn't worth a room in the family suite. I wasn't worth the acknowledgement of being family at all. After checking in, I went downstairs to get my bearings. The rehearsal dinner was at 7 p.m. in the grand ballroom. I had 3 hours. I wandered toward the ballroom entrance and saw them. The seating charts, displayed on elegant easels flanked by white roses. Calligraphy on cream cardstock. Beautiful. I found my name. Table 1 through 8. Immediate family, VIPs, Timothy's senior partners. Table 9 through 15. College friends, law school cohort. Table 16 through 22. Extended family, close friends. Table 23 through 27. Work colleagues, professional connections. Table 28. Catherine Bennett, plus 5 others. I looked at the other names at table 28. Robert Chen, wedding photographer. Sarah Martinez, florist. David Walsh, band manager. Jennifer Lee, event coordinator. Marcus Anderson, catering supervisor. Vendors, every single one. They'd seated me at the vendor table, not with extended family, not with work colleagues, with the hired help. My mother had looked at that seating chart, seen my name at table 28, and approved it. Back in my room, I checked my email. There was one from Vivian Hartford, the wedding planner. Subject: Important, logistics for table 28. Dear Ms. Bennett, as you're seated at our vendor coordination table, please note the following. Business attire is appropriate for vendor tables. Black tie optional does not apply. Please use the service entrance, 58th Street, and check in at the vendor desk by 6 p.m. Flash photography is prohibited from vendor seating areas. Vendor meals will be served after guest service is complete. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. Best regards, Vivian Hartford, CWP. I stared at the email. Read it 3 times. They thought I was a vendor. I typed a response. I'm the bride's sister, not a vendor. 15 minutes later, Vivian replied, Sincere apologies for any confusion. However, seating arrangements have been finalized and cannot be changed at this point. Please see attached updated dress code guidelines. The attachment was titled, Special Guest Accommodations, C. Bennett. They'd made a document, specifically for me, with instructions on how to behave, because I was seated with vendors and they needed me to understand I wasn't really a guest. At 5:03 p.m., my phone buzzed. Mom. Catherine, I understand you have concerns about the seating arrangements. You need to understand that Caroline has many important people to accommodate. Table 28 is perfectly nice. Please don't make this difficult. I stared at the text. typed and deleted 3 responses. Finally sent. Me. You seated me with the vendors. Mom. You're being overly sensitive. It's just a table. You're 31 years old, Catherine. Act like it. Tomorrow is Caroline's day. Don't ruin it with drama. 3 texts, 8 minutes. 0 acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, seating her daughter at the vendor table was hurtful. I didn't respond. I sat on the hotel bed I'd paid for myself, in the dress I'd bought myself, and thought, why did I come here? Why do I keep coming back to people who will never see me as worth loving? At 6:15 p.m., Caroline texted, "Hey, can you come up to the suite? Need your opinion on something real quick?" Against my better judgment, I went. The suite was full of laughing women in matching champagne-colored robes, 5 bridesmaids, plus Caroline, plus my mother supervising from an armchair with a glass of wine. "Catherine!" Caroline brightened. "Perfect timing. We're trying to decide. Should the bridesmaid dresses stay champagne or should we switch to blush pink? What do you think?" I looked at the 5 dresses hanging on a rack. Each one clearly custom-made, fitted, expensive. $1,800 each, I'd guess. $9,000 total. "I wasn't asked to be a bridesmaid," I said slowly, "so I don't know if my opinion matters." Caroline laughed, but it was tight. "Well, you're here now, so what do you think, champagne or blush?" One of the bridesmaids, Amanda, apparently a college roommate, looked at me curiously. "What do you do, Catherine?" "I'm a chef. I own a restaurant in Brooklyn." "Oh, that's so fun!" Amanda turned to Caroline. "I didn't know you had a sister. You always talk about being an only child." The room went quiet. Caroline's smile froze. "No, I don't. Amanda, you're drunk." "I'm not. You literally told me last week you were an only—" "Let's go get changed for dinner." Caroline cut her off, herding the bridesmaids toward the bedrooms. "Catherine, thanks for your opinion. See you downstairs." I stood there for one more second, meeting my mother's eyes. She said nothing, just took a sip of her wine and looked away, as if I'd already left the room. I left the suite and was heading toward the elevator when I heard voices in the hallway behind me. My mother's voice, distinctive even in a whisper. "Family portraits after the ceremony. I want bride and groom, bride with parents, groom with parents, full Ashford family, full Bennett family." A man's voice, probably the photographer, "and full Bennett family would be you, your husband, Caroline, and—" A pause. Then my mother. "Just Caroline. Close-up shots. I want to highlight her." "I saw Catherine Bennett's sister on the guest list." Another pause. Longer. "If there's time. But she's not priority. And if we do include her, keep her in the background. Not center frame." I pressed my back against the wall, unable to move. My mother walked past 30 seconds later, saw me standing there, and her expression didn't change. No shame, no guilt, just a slight tightening around her eyes. "Catherine, why are you lurking in hallways? Go get ready for dinner, don't be late." I made it back to my room, locked the door, and went into the bathroom. The marble floor was cold, the lights were too bright. Everything was too much. I sat down on the floor and cried for the first time in 5 years. Not loud, not dramatic, just silent tears that I couldn't stop. I'd known they didn't love me. I'd accepted that years ago. But I hadn't realized they didn't even see me. I was a ghost, an inconvenience, a name they wanted cropped out of photos. My phone buzzed. A text from Lorenzo. "Katerina, the restaurant is good. You are good. Remember who you are. You are chef. Don't let them take that." I looked at the text through blurry vision. Chef. That's who I was. In the kitchen, I was competent, respected, valued. Tomorrow I'd sit at table 28 like they wanted. But I wouldn't cry anymore. I'd show up, I'd be invisible, and then I'd go home and never come back. I woke up at 6 a.m. Friday morning after barely sleeping. The rehearsal dinner was tonight at 7 p.m. I had 13 hours to get through. I went for a walk in Central Park, bought coffee from a cart, sat on a bench near Bow Bridge, and watched joggers and dog walkers go by. Normal people living normal lives. A couple in their 70s walked past, holding hands. The woman said something that made the man laugh, and he kissed her temple. 50, 60 years together, maybe. Caroline was getting a $400,000 wedding. Designer dress, Plaza Hotel, 350 guests. But would she have this? This quiet intimacy? This real love? Or was she marrying Timothy Ashford III because he looked good on paper? Because our mother approved? Because it was the next checkbox on her perfect life list? I realized I didn't know my sister at all. Didn't know if she was happy or just performing happiness. Didn't know if she loved Timothy or loved the idea of him. We shared DNA, shared a womb, but we were strangers. And maybe we always had been. At 6:38 p.m., I walked into the Plaza Grand Ballroom and stopped breathing. It was stunning. Cathedral ceilings dripping with crystal chandeliers. 28 round tables draped in champagne silk. Centerpieces of white roses and orchids that probably cost more than my monthly rent. A string quartet playing Vivaldi in the corner. Champagne fountains. Ice sculptures. The kind of opulence that whispers old money in every detail. 180 guests mingling, already half drunk on expensive champagne, dressed in cocktail attire that screamed Upper East Side. I wore my emerald green dress. It looked beautiful. It looked appropriate. It looked cheap compared to everything else in this room. I found table 28. Far corner. Near the kitchen service doors. Partially obscured by a decorative column. From this seat, I could barely see the head table where Caroline and Timothy would sit. 5 empty chairs surrounded me. The vendors hadn't arrived yet. I sat down alone and watched my family across the room. My mother, resplendent in champagne silk, holding court at table 1. Caroline, glowing in a rehearsal dress that probably cost $3,000, surrounded by bridesmaids. They were laughing. They were happy. They didn't look in my direction even once. 15 minutes passed. People flowed around me like water around a stone, greeting each other, hugging, taking selfies. No one approached table 28. No one even glanced this direction. I watched my mother stand next to Caroline, arm around her daughter. Sorry, her only daughter, beaming as someone took a photo. I watched my father, who I'd barely spoken to since my parents' divorce 5 years ago, kiss Caroline's forehead. I watched Timothy's parents introduce Caroline to what looked like a senator. From 45 feet away, I might as well have been invisible. A waiter passed by, noticed me sitting alone, looked confused. "Ma'am, are you waiting for your party?" "No, this is my table." He glanced at his seating chart. "But this is the vendor coordination table." "I know." He looked at me with something like pity, then moved on. At 6:52 p.m., I was seriously considering leaving. Just standing up, walking out, catching a train back to Brooklyn, and pretending this night never happened. But then he walked in. He was impossible to miss. Tall, maybe 6'1", mid-30s, dark hair going silver at the temples. Tom Ford suit that fit like it had been painted on. Patek Philippe watch catching the chandelier light. But it wasn't the expensive clothes that made people turn. It was the way he moved. Confident without being arrogant, comfortable in his own skin, in a way that comes from actually mattering. He scanned the ballroom, and his eyes locked on mine. He walked straight toward table 28. "You're Catherine Bennett," he said. Not a question. "Yes?" My voice came out uncertain. "I know exactly who you are." He pulled out the chair next to mine and sat down without asking. "I'm Michael Donovan, and I've been wanting to meet you for a long time." Up close, he was even more striking. Gray eyes that saw too much, slight British accent, the kind of presence that made the entire ballroom feel like it had shifted slightly in his direction. "How do you know who I am?" "I've been to Bella Notte 3 times." He smiled. "October 12th, I had the tagliatelle al ragu. You were in the kitchen. I saw you through the window, the way you tasted the sauce, adjusted, tasted again. Obsessive precision. It was beautiful. My heart started pounding. You came to my restaurant? 3 times. Once in October, once in November, once 2 weeks ago. Each time, I sat at different tables, ordered different dishes. All of them were exceptional. You're... I couldn't say it. Couldn't let myself hope. You're Michelin. Michael's smile widened slightly. Among other things, I'm also a restaurant consultant for the Relais and Chateau Group, 580 properties worldwide. I specialize in helping luxury hotels find authentic dining experiences. Why are you telling me this? Because your restaurant is extraordinary, and because I think it's criminal that the bride's sister is sitting at the vendor table while people who've never met her are at the head table. I blinked. How do you know about the seating? I know a lot of things, Catherine, including that Timothy Ashford's law firm is currently advising on a $1.8 billion merger between a luxury hotel group and Relais and Chateau, and I'm the consultant who makes the final recommendation on whether that merger makes cultural sense. He leaned closer. Which means I have significant influence over whether Timothy's firm earns their $25 million fee. Understanding hit me like cold water. You're here because of the merger. I'm here because I was invited. Timothy's father knows my work. But I'm sitting at this table because I wanted to meet you, and because I think your family needs to learn that the people they dismiss might be more important than they realize. I don't need a rescue. Good, because I'm not offering one. I'm offering a partnership. He extended his hand. When people ask who I am, you tell them I'm your date. You follow my lead. And we'll see how this family treats you when they understand that you matter. Deal? I should have said no. I should have told this stranger that I didn't need his help, didn't want his pity, was fine handling my family's dysfunction on my own. But I looked across the ballroom at my mother, at my sister, at all these people who'd never once asked how I was doing, or what I wanted, or if I was happy. And I thought, why not? Why would you do this? I asked. You don't know me. I know your work. I know talent when I see it. And I'm tired of watching mediocre people succeed while brilliant ones are ignored. His gray eyes were serious now. Plus, I believe in consequences. Your family has treated you like you don't matter. I think they should understand what it feels like when someone who actually matters decides to pay attention to you. This feels manipulative. Is it more manipulative than seating you with vendors, than telling a photographer to crop you out of photos, than pretending you don't exist? He had a point. What's the end game here? I asked. I want to see you treated with respect, real respect, not fake politeness, and I want your family to understand that their actions have consequences. He smiled. Call it justice, call it revenge, call it whatever you want. But I promise you, Catherine, by the end of tomorrow night, no one in this room will ever forget you were here. I took his hand. His grip was warm, firm, certain. Okay, let's do it. At 7:02 p.m., the vendors started arriving at table 28. The photographer, a nervous man in his 50s with 3 cameras around his neck, saw Michael and did a visible double take. Mr. Donovan, I didn't realize you were seated here. Michael stood, shook his hand. Robert, good to see you again. I'm Catherine's date tonight. We thought we'd sit with you all for cocktails. Keep things informal. You don't mind, do you? Of course not. It's an honor. The florist arrived next, a woman in her 40s, who clearly recognized Michael too. Mr. Donovan, I didn't know you were attending this wedding. I wouldn't miss it. Michael's hand found the small of my back, warm and proprietary. Have you met Catherine, Caroline's sister and one of New York's most talented chefs? The florist blinked. No, I didn't realize Caroline had a sister. Most people don't, I said quietly. Michael squeezed my waist gently. Sarah, you should visit Catherine's restaurant. Bella Notte in Brooklyn. Best handmade pasta in the city. We stayed at table 28 for exactly 12 minutes, long enough for every vendor to arrive and see us there. long enough for people at nearby tables to notice Michael Donovan sitting in the corner, long enough for Caroline to glance over from table 1 and freeze mid-laugh. Then Michael stood, offered me his hand and said, "Shall we find somewhere with a better view?" Michael led me across the ballroom like he owned it, past table 23, past table 18, past table 12 where Timothy's cousins and law firm associates were settling in. He stopped at table 12, pulled out a chair, and gestured for me to sit. "Mr. Donovan?" A man in his early 30s stood up, extending his hand. "James Ashford, Timothy's cousin. I didn't know you'd be here tonight. Last-minute addition. I'm here with Catherine." Michael sat beside me, relaxed, comfortable. "Catherine is Caroline's sister. She owns Bella Notte, brilliant northern Italian cuisine. Have you been?" James looked at me with sudden interest. I had no idea Caroline had a sister. She never mentioned. He caught himself. "I mean, it's wonderful to meet you." A woman next to him, Sophie, his wife apparently, leaned forward. "A chef? How exciting! What kind of cuisine?" "Traditional northern Italian, handmade pasta, regional recipes. We only seat 26, so it's intimate." "That sounds amazing," Sophie gushed. "So much more authentic than these big, flashy places." Across the ballroom, I saw my mother stand up from table 1. She said something to Caroline, who turned to look directly at me, at us, at Michael's hand resting casually on the back of my chair, at the way table 12 was suddenly animated and engaged, asking me questions, interested in my life. Caroline's expression went from confusion to something that looked almost like fear. At 7:28 p.m., right after the appetizers were served, my mother appeared beside our table. "Catherine, a word, please?" Her smile was frozen, her voice tight. Michael stood immediately. "Mrs. Bennet, Michael Donovan, it's a pleasure to meet you." He extended his hand. My mother had no choice but to shake it. "Mr. Donovan, I didn't realize you were attending." Catherine was kind enough to include me as her guest. His smile was warm, genuine. "You've raised a remarkably talented daughter. You must be very proud." My mother's eye twitched. "Yes, of course. Catherine, could I speak with you for a moment? Privately?" "Of course," Michael said smoothly. "I'll be right here." My mother led me into the hallway outside the ballroom. The moment the door closed, her pleasant expression evaporated. "What are you doing?" "Attending my sister's wedding, like you asked." "With Michael Donovan? How do you even know him?" "Through my work?" "Don't play games with me, Catherine. Michael Donovan is one of the most influential consultants in luxury hospitality. The Ashfords have been courting him for months, and you just happen to know him? Happen to be his date?" "I own a restaurant, Mom. People in the restaurant industry know each other." She stepped closer, voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is Caroline's weekend, her wedding. You will not make a scene. You will not try to steal attention. You will be gracious and quiet and—" "I'm sitting at a table eating dinner," I interrupted. "That's literally all I'm doing. At a table you're not assigned to, with a man whose opinion could make or break Timothy's firm's biggest deal." So that was it. She wasn't angry I'd moved tables. She was angry I'd moved tables with someone important, someone whose attention might actually matter. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and saw fear behind the anger. Fear that I might finally actually matter. "I'm going back to dinner, Mom. As you said, this is Caroline's night. I wouldn't want to ruin it." I returned to table 12. 5 minutes later, Caroline appeared. She didn't approach Michael. She caught my eye and tilted her head toward the hallway. I excused myself. In the corridor, Caroline dropped all pretense of sisterly warmth. "What are you doing?" "You asked me to come to your wedding. I'm here." "With Michael Donovan?" "Catherine, do you have any idea who he is? How important he is to Timothy's firm?" "You didn't know who he was yesterday. Now you care?" "Don't do this." Her voice cracked slightly. Don't make my wedding about you. I'm sitting at a table eating salmon. How is that about me? You're sitting with Timothy's family, with Michael Donovan. People keep asking me who you are, why I never mentioned having a sister. Maybe because you tell people you're an only child? Caroline went pale. Amanda was drunk. She misunderstood. Did she? Because I'm starting to think you've been erasing me from your life for years. And the only reason you care now is because someone important finally noticed I exist. That's not fair. You seated me at the vendor table, Caroline, at our own mother's instruction. You approved that seating chart, so don't talk to me about fair. Please. And there it was, the crack in her perfect facade. Please don't ruin this for me. This is the most important weekend of my life. Can you just be normal for 2 days? I am being normal. You're the one who has a problem with it. I walked past her, back toward the ballroom. Enjoy your dinner, Caroline. I know I will. Back at table 12, the first course was being cleared. Timothy's father, Charles Ashford III, stood at the microphone. 70-something, silver hair, the kind of patrician bearing that comes from 5 generations of inherited wealth. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate my son Timothy and his beautiful bride-to-be, Caroline. The speech went on for 6 minutes. It covered Timothy's accomplishments, Harvard Law, youngest partner at Morrison and Fitch, Caroline's accomplishments, Columbia Law, brilliant legal mind, their bright future together. Charles mentioned Diane by name 3 times. We're delighted to welcome Caroline into the Ashford family, and we're equally delighted to deepen our friendship with the accomplished Diane Bennett, whose daughter reflects her own brilliance and grace. Catherine Bennett was not mentioned, not even as Caroline's family. I sat there, Michael's hand finding mine under the table, and felt the familiar numbness of erasure. After Charles sat down, there was a brief pause. People were picking up their champagne glasses, ready for the next toast. Michael stood up. The ballroom went quiet. No one had expected this. He walked to the microphone with the confidence of someone who belonged there. Timothy looked confused. Charles looked intrigued. Caroline looked terrified. "Forgive the interruption," Michael said, his British accent cutting clearly through the room. "I'm Michael Donovan, here tonight with a very special guest." 180 people turned to look at our table. At me. I know I'm not family, but I wanted to take a moment to share something. I've had the privilege of knowing one of the Bennett daughters, Catherine, through her remarkable work as a chef. Caroline's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Catherine owns Bella Notte in Brooklyn. For those who haven't been, you're missing something truly exceptional. The kind of restaurant that reminds you why food matters, why craft matters, why passion matters. My face was burning, every eye in the room on me. Caroline, your sister is one of the most talented chefs in New York. She creates beauty from simple ingredients, feeds people, brings joy through her work. You're very lucky to have such a talented sister. He raised his glass. To the Bennett sisters, both remarkable women, both worthy of celebration. 180 people raised their glasses. Caroline's hand was shaking. My mother's face had gone white. And I sat there, seen for the first time in my entire life, not sure whether to laugh or cry. The rest of dinner was surreal. People from other tables came over to introduce themselves, asked about my restaurant, took my business card, wanted to know where Bella Notte was, what the menu was like, how to get a reservation. James Ashford's wife Sophie leaned over. "I had no idea Caroline had a sister. Why doesn't she talk about you more?" "We have different circles," I said carefully. "Well, I'm definitely coming to your restaurant. Do you have a website?" At table 1, I could see Caroline talking urgently to Timothy. My mother sat rigid, smile frozen, occasionally sipping wine with mechanical precision. She looked like someone who'd lost control of her carefully constructed narrative. Because she had. At 9:18 p.m., I excused myself to use the restroom. I was washing my hands when Caroline walked in, alone. She checked under the stall doors, making sure we were alone. Then she turned to me, and her perfect composure cracked. "What are you trying to do?" "Use the bathroom." "Don't be cute. Michael Donovan just announced to 180 people that you're a talented chef. Timothy's mother is asking why I never mentioned having a sister. People are Googling your restaurant. What is your end game here, Catherine?" I dried my hands slowly. "I don't have an end game. I came to your wedding like you asked. I brought a date. I had dinner. That's it." "That's not it. You're making this about you." "How?" "By existing? By having a profession people find interesting? By being visible for once in my goddamn life?" Caroline's eyes filled with tears, but they looked calculated, performative. "I worked so hard to make this perfect. The perfect venue, the perfect dress, the perfect guest list. And you show up with one of the most important men in Timothy's business network, and suddenly everyone's talking about you. They're not talking about me. They're talking about my work. There's a difference." "Is there? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're trying to steal my spotlight." I looked at my twin sister. Same face, same DNA, completely different hearts, and felt something inside me finally break free. "Caroline, for 31 years, I have lived in your shadow. I have been erased, dismissed, ignored, and treated like an embarrassment. Mom seated me at the vendor table. You approved it. You tell people you're an only child. You've spent our entire adult lives pretending I don't exist unless you need something. And now, because for one single night someone acknowledged I have value, you're accusing me of stealing your spotlight?" I stepped closer. "You can't steal what was never yours. Respect isn't a spotlight, it's earned, and I've been earning it for 12 years while you've been coasting on a last name and a law degree." I woke up at 6:30 a.m. on Saturday to 17 missed calls, 4 from my mother, 3 from Caroline, 10 from numbers I didn't recognize. I listened to my mother's voicemail first. "Catherine, we need to talk about last night. What you did was completely inappropriate. You embarrassed Caroline. You inserted yourself into business relationships that don't concern you, and you made this wedding about you instead of your sister. Call me back immediately." Caroline's voicemail was different. "Catherine?" Her voice was thick, like she'd been crying, or wanted me to think she'd been crying. "I know we fought last night. I know you're upset about the seating thing. Can we please just put this behind us? Today is my wedding day. I want my sister there. Please, just be there, okay? Don't make this harder than it has to be." The manipulation was so familiar, it was almost comforting. She didn't apologize, didn't acknowledge what she'd done, just asked me to put it behind us and show up, like always. I texted back, "I'll be at the ceremony, see you there." At 4:15 p.m., 3 hours before the wedding ceremony, I was in my room getting ready when I heard shouting in the hallway. I opened my door a crack. The wedding planner, Vivian Hartford, was on her phone, voice rising in panic. "I understand you have food poisoning, but I need a head chef here in 2 hours for a 350-person seated dinner. What do you mean the entire team is sick?" She hung up, dialed another number. "Marcus? It's Vivian. The catering team just canceled. All of them. Food poisoning from a lunch tasting yesterday. I need you to find me a replacement team in 2 hours or this wedding is destroyed." She paced, listening. "I don't care what it costs. Pull from other events if you have to. Just make it happen." I stood in my doorway, listening. The professional part of my brain, the chef part, was already calculating. 350 people, 8 courses, 2 hours to prep. Impossible for a thrown-together team. This dinner was going to be a disaster. I shouldn't have cared. This was Caroline's problem. Caroline's wedding. The sister who'd erased me, dismissed me, seated me at the vendor table. But I thought about Lorenzo's words. "You are chef, that is who you are. I thought about 350 people who'd paid nothing for this meal but deserved something beautiful. And I thought about my mother and sister having to face guests with subpar food, having their perfect wedding marred by something as basic as bad catering. At 4:32 p.m., I found Vivian in the ballroom, surrounded by stressed staff. "I can help." She looked at me blankly. "I'm sorry?" "I'm a chef. Catherine Bennett. I own Bella Notte. If you can give me access to your kitchen and the ingredient list, I can help salvage this." Vivian's eyes widened. "You're the bride's sister?" "Yes, and I'm a professionally trained chef. I can't do this alone, but if you have kitchen staff who can follow direction, I can make this work." She looked at me for 3 long seconds, then, "Follow me." The plaza kitchen was massive, industrial, state-of-the-art. 23 staff members stood around looking lost. The original chef had left prep lists, but no one knew how to execute them. I tied my hair back, grabbed an apron, and became someone different. Not Catherine the invisible sister, not Catherine the disappointment. Chef Catherine, the version of myself I actually respected. "Listen up," I called out. "I need 6 of you on pasta. The orecchiette is already made. We just need to finish the broccoli rabe and sausage. 4 of you on the beef. We're doing a reverse sear. I'll walk you through it. 3 on fish. The salmon needs to be portioned and we'll do a herb crust. The rest of you on vegetables and plating." For the next 2 hours and 18 minutes, I didn't think about my family, didn't think about the wedding, didn't think about anything except timing, temperature, and technique. We made it work. 8 courses, 350 perfect plates, timed to the minute. At 6:50 p.m., I hung up my apron, washed my hands, and slipped out of the kitchen. I changed into my green dress, fixed my hair, and made it to the ceremony with 5 minutes to spare. No one knew I'd just saved their dinner. No one knew I'd spent 2 hours in a hot kitchen, making sure my sister's perfect wedding stayed perfect. And that was fine, because I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because feeding people is who I am. The wedding ceremony was beautiful, held in the plaza's terrace room, overlooking Fifth Avenue. 350 guests in formal attire, an arch covered in white orchids, a string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon. I sat in the back row. Not the very back, that would have been too obvious, but close enough to the back that I was clearly not family, just another guest. Caroline walked down the aisle on our father's arm, stunning in her Vera Wang gown. $12,000 of custom ivory silk, a cathedral train, a veil that floated like a cloud. She looked like a princess. She looked perfect. Our eyes met for half a second as she passed my row. I smiled. She looked away. The ceremony lasted 22 minutes. They said their vows, exchanged rings, kissed to enthusiastic applause. Mr. and Mrs. Timothy Ashford III. And I sat in the back, watching my twin sister marry a man I'd never had a real conversation with, and felt nothing but distant sadness for both of us. The reception started at 7:30 p.m. I found my name card at table 28. Still, even after last night, they hadn't moved me. The vendors were there again, the photographer, the florist, the band manager. "Catherine!" The photographer smiled. "Glad you're back with us. Mr. Donovan not joining you tonight?" "He'll be here," I said, though I hadn't actually confirmed that with Michael. As if summoned, Michael appeared at the ballroom entrance. He scanned the room, found me, and walked straight to table 28. "Ready for Act 2? He murmured, pulling out my chair. "I don't know what Act 2 is." "Trust me." At table 1, I saw my mother notice Michael's arrival, saw her lean over and whisper something to Caroline, who turned to look at us. Timothy's father Charles also noticed, said something to Timothy. The whole head table was suddenly very aware that Michael Donovan was here. Again. With me. And they had no idea how to handle it. The first course arrived, scallops with citrus beurre blanc and microgreens, perfectly seared, beautiful plating. Michael took one bite and looked at me. "You made this." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Catherine, I'm a professional restaurant consultant. I know when a dish has been cooked by someone with real talent versus someone just executing a recipe. This has your fingerprints all over it. I took a bite. He was right. The beurre blanc had just a touch too much lemon, exactly how I would have corrected it. The chef quit at 4:15, I said quietly. Food poisoning. They were going to serve garbage. I couldn't let that happen. You saved your sister's wedding reception. I saved 350 people from bad food. There's a difference. Michael sat back, studying me. You're a better person than I would be in your position. I'm a chef. Feeding people is what I do, even when they don't deserve it. The courses kept coming, each one perfect. The pasta I'd supervised, the beef we'd done reverse sear on, the herb-crusted salmon, every plate exactly as I'd directed, and no one knew, not Caroline, not my mother, not the guests who praised the meal. I'd given them a gift they didn't even know they'd received. Between the salad and the main course, my phone buzzed, a text from Caroline. Caroline, please don't do anything to embarrass me tonight. I'm begging you. Just let me have this one day. I stared at the text. She thought I was planning something, thought I was going to make a scene. I typed back, Enjoy your wedding, Caroline. It's beautiful. The food is excellent, by the way. You should thank your caterer. I didn't tell her I was the caterer. Didn't tell her I'd spent 2 hours saving her reception. Didn't tell her anything. Because she didn't see me as a sister. She saw me as a threat. And I was done trying to prove I was worth her love. During the main course, Michael leaned close. Are you ready? For what? For everyone in this room to know exactly who you are. My stomach dropped. Michael, what are you planning? Something you deserve. Something they need to hear. He checked his watch. The toasts start in 15 minutes, and I've arranged for a very specific announcement. What announcement? You'll see. He squeezed my hand. Trust me, Catherine. By the end of tonight, your mother will never be able to pretend you don't exist again. I wanted to ask more, but the servers were clearing plates, and the wedding planner was approaching the microphone, and I realized that whatever Michael had planned, it was about to happen. And I had no idea if I was ready for it. At 9:12 p.m., Timothy's best man finished his speech, something about bachelor parties and found love and inside jokes from law school. The room applauded politely. Caroline and Timothy sat at the head table, glowing, holding hands, the picture of perfect newlywed bliss. Vivian Hartford, the wedding planner, approached the microphone. Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate Caroline and Timothy. Before we cut the cake, we have one more special guest who'd like to say a few words. Please welcome Michael Donovan. My blood went cold. Michael stood up, buttoned his jacket, and walked to the microphone like he owned the stage. Good evening, Michael said, his British accent carrying clearly to every corner of the ballroom. For those who don't know me, I'm Michael Donovan. I consult for the Relais and Chateau Hospitality Group, and I also serve as an inspector for the Michelin Guide. A murmur went through the crowd. Michelin. The word carried weight in a room full of people who valued prestige. I'm not usually one for wedding speeches. I leave that to family and close friends. But tonight is special because I have the honor of knowing someone truly exceptional who happens to be here. He gestured to me. My face burned as 350 people turned to look. Catherine Bennett, the bride's twin sister, the woman sitting at table 28. My mother's face went white. Caroline's smile froze. Catherine owns Bella Notte, a 26-seat restaurant in Brooklyn. Over the past 6 months, I've visited her restaurant 3 times, incognito as Michelin inspectors do, and what I found there was remarkable. Not just excellent food, but artistry, passion. The kind of cooking that reminds you why we eat, why we gather, why food matters. Michael pulled out his phone, glanced at it, then looked back at the room. Tonight, at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, the Michelin Guide will officially announce the 2024 star recipients for New York City. The room went silent. I'm not supposed to spoil announcements, but given that Catherine just spent 2 hours in the plaza kitchen personally saving this reception after the catering team fell ill this afternoon, gasps. Caroline's hand flew to her mouth. I think she deserves to hear this in front of her family. No, he wouldn't. He couldn't. Bellanotte has been awarded 1 Michelin star, the first outer borough Italian restaurant to receive this honor in 12 years. The ballroom erupted. 350 people stood up, applauding. Timothy's father Charles was clapping. James Ashford and his wife Sophie were beaming. Strangers were turning to each other, impressed. And at table 1, my mother sat frozen. Caroline's face had gone pale. My father looked confused, like he couldn't quite process what he'd just heard. Michael raised his glass. To Catherine Bennett. An exceptional chef. An exceptional person. And someone who deserves to be seen. I sat there, unable to move, unable to breathe, as 350 people toasted me. The invisible twin. The disappointment. The girl they'd seated at the vendor table. Michael returned to table 28 and sat down like he'd just given a weather report. You saved the catering? I whispered. I had the wedding planner confirm it. They were falling apart trying to fix the disaster. You stepped in at 4:30 and personally directed the entire service. And you just announced my Michelin star? At my sister's wedding? You earned that star. You've been earning it for 12 years, and this family needed to understand exactly what they've been dismissing. People were approaching our table now, congratulating me, asking about the restaurant. Business cards appeared from everywhere: food writers, restaurant investors, people who wanted reservations. At table 1, I watched Caroline say something to Timothy, watched my mother dab at her eyes with a napkin, but they looked dry. Watched my father stare at me like I was a stranger, because to them, I was. 20 minutes later, my mother approached table 28. She was smiling. The smile didn't reach her eyes. Catherine, congratulations, darling. A Michelin star. How wonderful. Her voice was stiff, performative, every word carefully chosen. Thank you. And thank you for helping with the catering situation. I had no idea you were in the kitchen. You weren't supposed to know. Well, she glanced at Michael, then back to me. I'm very proud of you. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, saw the calculation behind her eyes. She wasn't proud. She was managing. Managing the optics. Managing the fact that Michael Donovan had just publicly validated me in front of everyone who mattered to her social circle. Are you? I asked quietly. Proud? Or just relieved that I'm finally worth acknowledging? Her smile tightened. Catherine, don't be dramatic. Of course I'm proud. You've worked very hard. I've been working very hard for 12 years. You just didn't care until it benefited you. This isn't the time. When is the time, Mom? When will it ever be the time for you to see me as something other than an embarrassment? She opened her mouth, closed it. For the first time in my life, my mother had no response. She just stood there, smile frozen, and then walked away without another word. At 10:45 p.m., the reception was winding down. Caroline approached table 28, alone. She looked tired. Her perfect makeup had started to crack around her eyes. Her Vera Wang dress, though still beautiful, looked heavy on her shoulders. Can we talk? She asked. Please? We found a quiet corner near the terrace doors. I didn't know about the Michelin star, she said. I didn't know you saved the catering. I didn't know a lot of things, apparently. No, you didn't. I'm sorry. For the seating. For not making you a bridesmaid. For all of it. But her eyes said something different. They said, I'm sorry you embarrassed me. Sorry you made my wedding about you. Sorry I have to apologize. Are you sorry I was hurt? Or sorry that everyone found out? She flinched. That's not fair. You told Amanda you were an only child. You approved seating me at the vendor table. You spent our entire adult lives erasing me. And now you're sorry because I finally got recognized in front of people who matter to your husband's career. I never meant to erase you. Yes, you did. You just didn't expect anyone to notice. She looked at me, my identical twin, my mirror, my stranger, and I saw it in her eyes. She wasn't sorry for hurting me. She was sorry for losing control of the narrative, and that told me everything I needed to know. At 11:15 p.m., after the cake cutting, after the first dance, after most of the formal events had concluded, Michael stood one more time. He didn't go to the microphone. He simply stood at table 28, raised his glass, and spoke loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Catherine, I want you to know something. I looked up at him. In my 20 years of evaluating restaurants, I've seen maybe 10 chefs with your level of instinct. Your technical skill is exceptional, but what makes you special is that you cook with heart. Every dish tells a story. Every plate is an act of generosity. He paused. Your family doesn't see it, but the rest of the world will. And you don't need their approval to be extraordinary. You already are. It wasn't a grand speech. It wasn't designed to humiliate anyone. It was just truth, spoken quietly, meant only for me. But people heard it anyway. And at table 1, my mother and sister heard it too. I left the reception at 11:47 p.m. Michael walked me to the elevators. You're leaving New York tomorrow? He asked. First train back to Brooklyn. Before you go, he handed me a business card. This is my direct line. I meant what I said about your restaurant. I'd like to discuss some consulting opportunities. Relays and Chateau is always looking for authentic dining experiences to recommend. You don't have to do that. I know. I want to. He smiled. And for what it's worth, Catherine, you deserve better than this family. You deserve to be celebrated, not hidden. I hope tonight showed you that other people see your value, even if they don't. I took the card. Thank you. For everything. For seeing me. You were always worth seeing. They were just looking in the wrong direction. Sunday morning, I checked out at 6:30 a.m. I had 3 voicemails from my mother, left between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. the previous night. The first, Catherine, we need to discuss your behavior last night. The second, people are asking questions. This is very awkward for Caroline. The third, call me back. We need to talk about managing this situation. Managing the situation, not I'm proud of you, not congratulations, just damage control. I deleted all 3 messages. As I walked through the plaza lobby with my suitcase, my phone buzzed. A text from Caroline. Caroline, I know you're probably leaving. I just wanted to say thank you for coming and for saving the catering. I really do appreciate it. I stared at the text. No apology for the seating, no acknowledgement of the years of erasure, just, thank you for coming, and I appreciate it. I didn't respond. I got on the train back to Brooklyn, watched the city disappear into industrial landscape, and felt something I hadn't felt in years, free. 3 weeks after the wedding, my mother called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Catherine, it's Mom. I've been thinking, we should have dinner, just the 2 of us. There's a lovely French place near my apartment. I want to hear about your plans now that you have this Michelin recognition. Call me back. She wanted to have dinner, now, after 31 years of treating me like an afterthought, because now I was worth her time. I called her back the next day. I appreciate the invitation, Mom, but I'm going to pass. Catherine, I need you to understand something. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt. I'm just done. I'm done pretending we're a family when we're just people who share DNA. I'm done hoping you'll see my value. I already know my value, and I don't need your validation anymore. Silence on the other end. Are you saying you don't want a relationship with me? I'm saying I want an honest relationship, and I don't think you're capable of that. You don't love me, Mom. You never did. You just love what I can do for your image now. That's not true. It is, and that's okay. I've made peace with it. I hope you can too. I hung up before she could respond. 6 months later, Bella Notte had a 3-month waiting list. The Michelin star brought attention, but it also brought validation for 12 years of backbreaking work. Proof that I'd been right to follow my passion instead of my mother's plan. Michael became a regular, not as an inspector, as a friend. We'd have espresso after service, talk about food and life and the strange ways families break. Carolyn sent me a Christmas card. It had a picture of her and Timothy in matching sweaters, looking perfect. Inside, she'd written, "Hope you're doing well. We should catch up sometime." I put it in a drawer and forgot about it. My mother sent nothing, and I was fine with that. Better than fine. Because I'd finally learned the most important lesson. The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's building a life so fulfilling that their opinion stops mattering. Here's what I know now, looking back. They're never going to apologize. My mother will never admit she was wrong. Caroline will never acknowledge the years of erasure. My family will continue to see themselves as blameless and me as overly sensitive. And that's fine, because I don't need them to see me anymore. I see myself. I'm Catherine Bennett. I'm a chef. I'm a Michelin-starred chef. I'm someone who creates beauty from simple ingredients, who feeds people, who makes them happy with my work. I'm the twin who was supposed to disappear, the daughter who was supposed to be ashamed of her choices. But I'm still here. I'm thriving. And I'm visible on my own terms. Not because someone decided I was finally worth acknowledging, but because I never stopped believing I was worth acknowledgement. Sometimes people ask me if I regret going to the wedding. I don't, because that weekend taught me something crucial. You can't earn love from people who've decided you're not worth it, and you shouldn't waste your life trying. My mother will always be disappointed I'm not Caroline. Caroline will always see me as competition instead of family, and that's their loss, not mine. Because I have a restaurant filled with regulars who know my name. I have Lorenzo, who believed in me when no one else did. I have Michael, who saw my talent before it had a star attached to it. And I have myself, the version of me who kept cooking even when no one was watching, who chose passion over prestige, who refused to be invisible even when everyone wanted me to disappear. They seated me at table 28, the vendor table, the table for people who didn't matter. But here's the thing about being underestimated. It gives you freedom. Freedom to build something real while everyone's looking the other way. And by the time they turned around, I'd already become someone they couldn't ignore, someone they couldn't erase, someone who mattered not because of their validation, but despite their rejection. The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's knowing your own worth. And I finally do.